Rise and shine, my sinners. When Father Evil starts his day, he gets a little deadly. Deadly Grounds coffee has the richest, smoothest flavor you'll find anywhere. It's sinfully delicious. Once you go deadly, you never go back. Order yours at getdeadly.com. Coffee's so good, it's scary.
The Dorkening and all affiliated shows are not intended for anyone under the age of 18. The following may contain discussions or scenes that have adult situations, graphic violence, nudity, strong sexual content, and graphic language. This show is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer discretion is advised.
Don't get to see that intro like ever. That was a fun one to make, man.
I like that one.
I had to leave it like I wanted as many blurry photos of weird shit as like a video as possible because it's just
it's all about the mystery.
Oh yeah, even has stuff we were talking about, the little two legs with the head.
Yeah.
The Fresno creeper.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And the lights over Phoenix.
There's Tom.
Lights over Phoenix being one of the most famous alien cases that's not at Right Pat.
Yes.
I
love your
think
stuff,
it's
Ron.
This is my own cryptid right here.
You know what? I wonder, and I'm going to get a hold of them and see if they can make a Mothman that sits right there on my shoulder. But he would have to sit.
That'd be cool, man. All right, guys, welcome to Legends by Night. Technically, this is episode 1. We did an episode 0 a couple months back with people you see here before you, for the most part, and a couple others, about the ending of the haunt season from 2024. And yes, this is a show that will sometimes talk about haunting and haunted attractions, but normally we will talk about all the other strange and odd things out in the world as well. You could be getting a show about serial killers. You could be getting a show about aliens, cryptids. You'll never know because we'll never know until we do it. So today's show is cryptids. And yes, hello, everybody.
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in.
Definitely.
Oh yes, welcome. And one of our chatters has a video on today.
Indeed. So one thing that's different about this show versus all the other shows we do on the network for the most part is that we like it when viewers like you find out what our themes are and actually record videos and send them in, and we get to play them. And today, I think 3 videos is what we have today.
Nice.
Yes, 3 videos.
Sweet. So before we start playing them, obviously today's show, as we've said before, and it's in the title, is all about cryptids. Now we're talking Bigfoot, we're talking Mothman. There's whole classifications of these things, and I think earlier, Pyle, weren't you talking about like the definition or technically of what a cryptid is?
Yeah. There's actually kind of 3 different ones that this book I was reading actually talks about. It talks about the one that people have seen. It's nothing that anybody's ever seen before, but there's multiple accounts of this. And then there is the cryptid that is kind of like, well, we've seen that animal, but it's in the wrong area. Like just having a report of a alligator that's in the sewers of New York. That's kind of like a little story that everybody's always heard. You don't flush your pets down the toilet because they might not be dead. And Next thing you know, you got a fish holding a knife up to your throat. I don't know.
Yeah. You got Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
You know what? I was totally okay with that as a teenager.
Well, until
elementary.
Like the issue in the 80s where a bunch of kids got so inspired by it that they actually started going down into the sewers, and there was a case where some kids actually died going into the sewers to find the Ninja Turtles.
And there's a book that has so many cryptids out there, and it talks about these different ones. It talks about the old legend ones, the newer legend ones. I mean, there's just so many out there that it's incredible. I mean, one of the most famous one is Mothman and also Bigfoot. Almost every state has reports of Bigfoot, but they give them different names, which is a great thing. Here in Ohio, we have the Ohio Grass Man. Yes. Down in Florida, you have skunk ape. There's even a type of Bigfoot that's not that big. It's actually got big feet, but it's actually a short one. Yep. And it loves apples. And there's so many different ideas in this and that. Like here in Ohio, we also have the Ohio Loveland Frogman, which has a festival that they're starting up. Last year was the first year. This year's the second year. And I have full intentions of going. And
my plans recently may have just changed involving that. I got to talk to you about that soon. Yeah. And
did you make it? Did you make it change? Or
but not like there were reasons. I'll explain to you later.
Okay.
Matt's old wrestling show that Jen used to hang out with us on Mats and Monsters. We did a very special round robin style tournament between cryptids that were all found in and around Ohio. So
wow.
There was so many different ones we found that we were able to talk about and discuss. There's like a big list of them, and we had to actually narrow down the list to figure out how many episodes we were going to do, and we still had to do usually 2 battles a show in order to get it all done in the episodes that we did. So if you want to learn about what's in Ohio, you can go back and check that out.
One of the funniest things is Alaska. My bad. This book I was reading was talking about the Alaska cryptid, which they actually found it on a radar, and it gave the shape, the size, and the thing is over 200 feet. And the person that wrote that book made a comment that they need to make sure that Alaska kind of gets in on this cryptid idea, and they need to make a bumper sticker that says, "Mine will eat your cryptid."
Oh wow!
My cryptid will eat your cryptid.
Yeah, I mean, it's the biggest one. It's the biggest one that was ever figured out about a size range. I mean, usually cryptids are about 6 feet, 7 feet is the average size of, I don't know if that's just because our eyesight registers this thing that kind of looks like a human to being a little taller than a human.
That actually gives me a really good idea for a story, Pyle.
Okay.
Well, we all know that icebergs, for as massive as they are, on top of the water, that's usually only like 1/3, maybe 1/4 of the entire iceberg. So the majority of the iceberg is underwater, correct? What if the iceberg, the part of the iceberg that's underwater, is the cryptid, and all you're seeing is just the tip of its back, like a scale?
Yeah, that would be awesome. But yeah, I mean, this creature was supposed to be found on radar underneath a boat, and they kind of looked at it like, this ain't right, and they looked at it again, and the thing was actually moving a little faster than the boat. So it was what they considered, cruising speed.
Right.
And then you have the good old jackalope. Everybody's went to a Texas Roadhouse and seen that thing on the wall, right?
Gotta love the jackalope, man.
And
something to think on.
Also, one of the stars. Oh my God, what was the show? America's Funniest People.
Right.
Dave Coulier. They had the actual episodes about the jackalope. That's how I found out what it was as a child. I remember that show, and that's how I learned about it.
And that's the thing about a jackalope, there's actually a legit story of how the jackalope became a jackalope, and then there's a legit story of how those stories started with the jackalope. It was just because a taxidermist, him and his brother went out giant hare hunting and found a hare or a couple of them, and they went in, got some food, came back out, and one of the hares fell onto a deer skull, and it made the first idea. They sold it to a dentist, and the dentist came up with all these crazy legends about it, and everybody's like, yeah, I've seen that.
Yep.
And every time that somebody would go hunting for a hare, they would see it in the twigs and stuff like that. They'd be like, look, he's got antlers.
Yep.
Which,
and it was later sold to a traveling freak show.
Right. And now, heck, the place that I went to in Columbus, Raz, they had a jackalope.
That's something I want so bad.
I thought about buying it, but I was like, not right now. I mean,
so what age were you when you realized or found out that a jackalope is not a real creature?
Also, I think within like a couple days to a week of seeing it for the first time on America's Funniest Videos, or Funniest People, or whichever show it was, Funniest People, I think, because my grandma told me that's where I get my love of traveling freak shows and a lot of odd things is from her. It was something that she was very familiar with, and she I was watching the show with her. No, I didn't watch it with her. I told her about it, like, I think a day or two after I watched the show about this jackalope thing. And she's like, oh, I know what the jackalope is. And she legit took me to our local library and sat down and, like, taught me about the jackalopes, which is how I started learning about freak shows and some other really cool stuff. I'm wanting to say I don't remember when the jackalope started on America's Funniest People. I'm about to look it up because that's how old I was.
I remember that so much as that thing would pop up and go, hey, and then take off.
That was like, you'll never catch me.
Yeah, that was like the best part of my childhood was that time frame where everything seemed like it was so funny back then.
Yep.
Now they want you to be serious, but you ain't getting serious out of me.
My father had a jackalope head, like, stuffed and mounted on a wall. So, for the longest time, I didn't know. I thought maybe a jackalope was an actual animal. It took me a while before I found out that it's equivalent to snipe hunting.
I have taken so many people snipe hunting, and I've done it I've done it when throwing firecrackers at people. I've done it in so many different ways that even people that thought they were in on the joke of me taking people snipe hunting also got sniped. 1990. I was 8 years old. I had to look that up.
I was the kid that I got picked on, and when I was picked on, even though I was part of the greatest childhood club, as they called it at the time, I still got picked on because I was a little different, and everybody thought, well, that was an easy target. Well, they wanted to send me sniping. And the ironic thing is, I caught something and brought it back to them, and it jumped out of the bag, freaked them out, screamed like a cat, and it jumped through, and everybody was freaking out because they couldn't register what the heck it was. It was a giant bullfrog. I mean, I opened it up. I said, look, I found it. I opened it.
Frog.
And it went boom, shot right past them.
Frog.
Yeah.
Right. So, for those of us that aren't from Ohio, or those of us joining in that are not in Ohio, explain what the Loveland Frogman is.
There's two different variations. Some people believe that it is just a giant, like, person-sized bullfrog, and some people believe that it is actually a bipedal frog that actually walks around like a human. There's different sketches to support both theories completely, actually.
And the first report was actually done by a deputy. They called over another deputy. He's like, you ain't going to believe what the heck I seen. The second deputy shot at the thing. One story is that, he shot it. It jumped over the barricade and ran, and they never seen it again. But these guys had to do a whole sketch. And the second one was that they found it, and what it was a giant salamander. So there's
which is not native to that area, not that size of a salamander.
no, not that big. Gee, criminy. So well, hi Nathaniel.
Howdy.
How big was this salamander?
It was supposed to be like 3 feet tall.
Yep, a 3 foot tall, not long, but tall salamander.
Right.
Yeah.
So apparently the salamander
It
had
was
to
like
get up
6
and
or
run
7
too.
feet long and 3 feet tall is what it was.
Right.
What got written down about it.
And it was one of those things that you kind of look at and go, man, that'd be great, but
why don't we talk about
can't
the
fathom it.
salamander cryptid instead of inventing the frog cryptid? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that was we know that there was a giant salamander there. Why is no one talking about it?
Well, when you
Right.
say 3 foot salamander, it makes me think of the little lizard men, the lizard characters in EverQuest.
Oh, I remember those. Yeah.
That's what I think about. 4 foot frogman that roams around Loveland, Ohio.
right. One of the funniest things I ever thought, Oklahoma's got a great one. It's called the Oklahoma octopus. You guys heard that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So let me point out Oklahoma. Oklahoma is a state that it does not get a whole bunch of lakes. Most of the lakes in Oklahoma are actually man-made. All the giant ones are man-made.
Yeah.
And here you go, and you have a 20-foot long octopus that is
Freshwater.
living in freshwater, not saltwater. And the description of it is it has a way to go from one lake to another lake, which that just it's really weird because me and Friday yesterday was talking about a bull shark. A bull shark can go from saltwater into freshwater, and here in my neck of the woods, it was starting to make a newspaper article go bigger and bigger that they found a shark head or a shark in the Great Miami River here in Piqua, Ohio area.
Yep.
Well, that was kind of entertaining because they found out it was a couple guys that went down the jungle gyms, bought a shark head, brought it back, and was doing some stuff with it. And they got it and they threw it out. When they threw it out, they just thought, down the river it goes. Well, down the river didn't go too far. It got caught up on the side, and everybody started seeing a shark cruising the water, even though it was actually on the side.
Nice.
So this is one of the things that it really makes sense
Hell yeah.
how these stories
yeah.
happen, and it causes so much panic with a lot of things. And when you're in panic, your brain goes and absolutely moves around, and
Florida
you
has-
don't know.
I was gonna say Florida has the biggest cryptid of all. It's called Florida Man.
Right? And I don't think Florida Man is just one man. I think Florida Man is
It's Legion.
yeah, exactly. It's Legion.
Been through some
So this Oklahoma octopus pile, it makes me question. You said that it has the ability to go from one lake to another, but is there any kind of connecting waterways or drainage pipes or sewers or anything like that would connects all the lakes to each other so that it can move from lake to lake? Because we know octopuses are capable of squeezing through very small spaces because they're basically gelatinous.
Right.
And no, they haven't found any connection. And this is like miles and miles and miles away, these bodies of water. So to figure out how you're doing it is amazing. And then figuring out that there's actually one type of octopus that actually, goes from being a saltwater animal to being a freshwater would be amazing.
For the longest time, they sold this kind of octopus at literally at pet stores. Jack's Aquariums and Pets used to have the freshwater octopus and the saltwater octopus. A lot of stores said they were really, really popular when, like in the 80s and 90s, the freshwater ones were very popular at pet stores. At least in Ohio, anyway. I don't know about anywhere else. I'm assuming also Oklahoma and other places. But you mentioned the waterway travel. It's interesting because that's also a tribute that is a tribute that is given to Nessie. You can find Nessie in any lock. And there's another really cool local one. This one's actually hilarious. It's called a Schwampy. Swampy is from Park Lane, Ohio, right over there next to Crystal Lake. And Swampy is basically a version of Swamp Thing, more or less, but it predates the existence of, Swamp Thing as a character, or Man
And
Thing.
of course, it's named Crystal Lake.
It literally is, yeah. It's right where Crystal Lake meets up against Park Lane, and that's where the legend is. And I have legit sat on a bench, both sober and very not sober many times, and watched a guy just kind of walk up, hop in the lake. You can't really see him too well. It looks like a guy from a distance, but he doesn't come back up. Like, you can sit there for however long you want, and the guy does not come back up out of the lake. And the legend is that that's Swampy. Now, a lot of the lakes
I believe the Rothman of West Virginia is considered a cryptid.
She says Mothman.
Mothman.
But yeah,
yes,
like, that's another thing about that Swampy has is the ability to just pop up at all the lakes. Except for at Crystal Lake, the lakes used to be much bigger, and there used to be more of them before they got filled in. And there were actual currents in these little waterways between the lakes at that one.
Jason was already there killing everybody, so Swampy moved on to another lake.
That is also based on a famous story that, partially, loosely based on a story that actually happened at the lake. There is a plaque. It's been moved out into the water and weighted down now because it got stolen and damaged so many times. That says Jason Voorhees drowned here. It was when it's when legitimately a local kid named Jason Voorhees drowned in that lake back in the 60s.
Oh, well, that's not as much funny.
Also, another fun installment over there by the lake, Pat and Martha's Bar, which has been in more than one of the Friday the 13th films, can be found as an actual establishment over there by the lake and has been there predating the movies.
Oh, wow.
And you can literally take the path that they take from Crystal Lake to Springfield, Ohio, a.k.a. Springwood, Ohio, and Jason vs. Freddy. You can take the actual path and see most of the same things.
If that's the case, and I guess we're getting off topic from cryptids here, but if that's the case, then why didn't they just base the Friday the 13th movies in Ohio and not New Jersey?
Some of them were. So it was filmed in New Jersey at a Girl Scout camp, and one or two movies were New Jersey, but several of the movies were also Ohio. Some were this area of Ohio, and some were Akron and Cleveland, Ohio. So it's...
But that's not keeping consistent with the canon.
It's just like Springwood was actually Springfield. There was a Frederick R. Krueger that lived in Springfield that murdered some people and got burnt to death in his own home. That's it. That's the end of the story. He died.
So I will tell you now,
the city of Springfield actually sued, and they changed it from Springfield to Springwood.
I can tell you now that I know there is a grave in St. Mary's, and I know where it is, and the name on it is Frederick Krueger.
Yep, Frederick R. Krueger. That's where his family was from.
It doesn't have anything like hands popping out or this and
that.
Yeah,
no, it's not. It's just a sad story.
Well, I can't imagine that there wouldn't actually be somebody somewhere in the world that's named, Frederick Krueger.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be a common name.
Honestly, yeah. It's not that strange of a name. It really isn't. Voorhees is also not that strange of a surname either, to be honest with you.
Alglaze County, I don't know if he's still the sheriff, but Alglaze County's got Sheriff Voorhees.
Mm-hmm. Yep,
and his grandson came to our Field of Screams, and he started working with us and did a wonderful job. And, it was funnier than heck that I had a Voorhees and I didn't have a Jason running around.
Yep.
And, that was one of the things. Everybody's like, well, you should put a Jason. And I was like, Jason is not a chainer. Chainer is not Jason. So, even though that was my favorite one to go through, but yeah.
I mean,
getting back to the Mothman Pyle. So if I'm correct, if I remember correctly, Mothman shows up just before impending doom when someone is going to die. Is that correct?
That's a version.
Kind of. That's a version, and the reason that was even said was because Mothman was showing up. He was doing a lot of stuff, and then all of a sudden, the Silver Bridge disaster happened, and that was on December 15th of 2067. And if you
2067,
Whoa.
Oh, my bad. 1967. Jesus
I was like
Christ.
2067.
Wow.
Wow. We time traveled for this one, guys.
Right?
I know, right? Like, you know what? Friday, I did that yesterday, didn't I?
2029. It's like, no, it was 2009.
He Cartmaned himself. He just went out in the snow and froze himself until the future happened.
Right.
Yeah,
You can do
but
it outside
anyway,
right now.
anyway,
So
yeah,
what are
the-
some of the other situations in which the Mothman would appear?
the first one that was actually shown at all was couple kids, and if you go through cryptid books or cryptid research or anything, you will come to realize 90% of these things start with kids in a car, and they found this.
Mhm.
Except for
Car
the
or
deputies
camping
finding
trip.
it.
Yeah.
Right.
Urban legends.
Yep.
And that's a perfect setting because, but two groups of teenagers were in a car, and as they were going down this road, they just seen red eyes. And it wasn't just they didn't say it was red eyes in the beginning. They said they seen two red lights. And as they keep on getting closer, they come to realize that there was more to this. And this thing was not on the ground. It was actually hovering. And then it started going after them. And they did a Scooby-Doo chase. And then it was never seen until a couple weeks later.
Dun, dun,
Someone
dun.
else seen it. Then someone else seen it. And Point Pleasant, if you've never been there, I highly recommend going there because it's got a whole bunch of historical stuff to it. But the circumstances surrounding the whole Mothman legend is so out there that you really kind of wonder exactly what did happen versus what people was throwing in there to just get their name out there. And that's how most of these legends do happen. People add something or twist it or this and that. Like there is a bat squatch. But going back to the Mothman, everybody was told to hush up. No one was told to say anything. And there was a group of guys coming that was in black suits. And honestly, the description of these guys, I didn't know what it was or what it was representing when I seen all the photos. And I thought, man, these guys are totally into the freaking Blues Brothers. I really did. I thought it was. And then I come to realize, no, these
The
were
black
guys
suit
that were
version of the
So
Blues
this
Brothers.
is before Men in Black then.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And these guys, they had sunglasses, had hats, had suits. They were talking to people and telling them, hey, don't say nothing. Don't let that out. No, that's not what you've seen. You were misunderstanding. So, right. And Mothman has been seen all over. It's not just the circumstances with West Virginia is what keeps Mothman there that everybody can see it.
Well, it was
Become a
the
basis of
biggest
their tourism.
It was the biggest widespread phenomenon of that many people seeing the same thing at the same moment. Like it almost, I would say it damn near in recorded cryptid history, like of all the cryptids you've heard about, like that many people at the same exact moment seeing the same thing.
And they seen it not just in the dark. They seen it in the day. They seen it in the dark. They seen it here. They seen it there. It was
people
around
on both
the
sides
power
of the
plant.
bridge. But both sides of the bridge saw it too.
Ohio or Indiana, it was everybody was looking up and seeing this and not knowing what the heck it was. And that was the best thing about cryptids because you get the reports, but this one was the one that everybody is coming to collectively give information. Now, the photos that you're seeing, the pictures that you're seeing that are done by humans is humans doing an artistic talent to it, like the Mothman here. One right here. I am not ready for that because it's backwards. Anyway, this is one picture of a Mothman, and it's showing that it's got feathers. There's ones that make it more like a moth. There's ones that make it more like a bat creature. And there's a statue in the middle of West Virginia's Point Pleasant well, it's not really in the middle, but it's in the middle of the main part of that downtown. And this sculpture was by a guy that he wanted to do something, and he mated this. And when he made it look like more of a manly figure with more of a monster face. And now people actually take canned goods and they put it at the feet of this statue to try getting this creature to come back. And on the opposite side of this statue, he has got the firmest butt in the world. And you will go to that festival, there'll be two lines, one that wants to get a picture of in front of the statue, and one that is touching the butt. And that is a thing for that.
Yeah,
No
they wanted
kidding.
me to model for that, Pyle, but unfortunately I was busy that day.
Nice.
I would have done it, but I was just like, man, these guys are kind of freaky going after this. I want to touch the butt.
So there's
And that-
also different looks for Mothman for different purposes. And this I find
Right.
super weird because there's an actual cult surrounding the Mothman that believe that how he appears to you and how it appears to you, like what time of day, how it looks, colors, there's differences, explains what its purpose for appearing is. And this is such like a known thing that it made it into one of the most famous video game series of all time, Fallout. And Fallout 76, you can actually go over from Ohio into Point Pleasant, go to the Mothman, the original Mothman Museum where it used to be located. They've got that rendered in the game. The cult of the Mothman is there, and you will legit see different versions of Mothman show up.
Dude, they did that in the game on Fallout 76?
They did.
Yeah, there's
That's
actually a
cool.
ton. The Grafton Monster, the Charles Mill Monster. There's a bunch of different cryptids all over that game. Like the whole area is pretty much West Virginia and that edge of Ohio.
I did not know
I
that. I've never played that
I
game.
so seen that.
Oh, it's
I
badass,
so
man.
seen that post that
Just
popped
for the
up,
cryptids.
and I will absolutely get into the two versions of El Chupacabra.
Yeah. Before we go much further, we should probably since we have so many videos, we should probably play one of the videos.
Yeah,
How about we put the commenters video up?
Yes, let's do that first.
Hi, Owlite. This is Jodi Colon here, popping on to share a very eye-opening and confirming quick story with you all. So I'm going to paint you a little picture of, in my early 20s, I lived in a state forest with Lacucci State Forest in Central Florida, to be exact. And for years, I heard many rumors that because there were caves out there that a lot of people went and explored, there were Sasquatches living out there. But back then, my mindset was seeing is believing, so I really thought they were full of junk. Well, there was an old rock quarry that we used to go swimming in. And one day, I was having a really bad day. And my boyfriend at the time and I decided we were going to go down to the quarry and go for a little swim. And he swam off. He was being his silly self. And I decided to go under the water and just submerge myself. And when I came up out of the water, lo and behold, across the way, I mean far away, but I had to adjust my eyes. I kid you not, there was a full-grown Sasquatch. And from that day on, I have been a believer. So many call me bogus. Yeah, right. It happened. It happened, y'all. So on that note, that's my story of swimming in a beautiful rock quarry and having an encounter with a Sasquatch.
Nice. Thank you for sending that in, Jodi. That was awesome, man.
Yeah, I love that story so much.
I think it's great that some of these people, they have these stories and they're like looking around going, I don't want to say this because they're just going to look at me and say I'm just this and that. And the thing is, you're the one that's going to know the story. You're not. No one else is going to know the story. You have your own experiences with everything. I had an experience with something I still to this day don't have any idea what it is, and it was a bird type, and it scared me to the point that I ran faster than I've ever ran through a creek bed back to my house, and I can't tell you what it looks like. It didn't look like a bird. It was in the branches, something, it had to get up there, this and that, but the sound that came out of it was just so odd. It scared the heck out of me, and me being a little kid, what's a little kid going to do? Run like heck. And this is when you had cell phones. Cell phones have been some of the best stuff that we can actually get. But even when you have all these cameras, you're still going to catch something that you don't know what's going on, because there's what is that? Fresno. You're going to correct me on this. The creeper. What is that? Out in California.
San Francisco? Fresco. Fresco. Yeah. Hold on. Let me look that up.
Yeah, the Fresco creeper. And it looks like a pair of pants.
It's Fresno.
Fresno, that's what it is. I knew I was saying it wrong.
Yeah, it's what you have that's in the video, the intro video. Yeah, it's the Fresno Nightcrawler.
Yeah, it looks like a pair of pants with eyeballs walking around.
Oh yeah, I know. I had a pretty major. Well, I've had several encounters with what I truly feel was Sasquatch or Bigfoot, whatever you like to call it. One of the most shocking ones I'm not going to go into like today, because there was a couple Allied societies ago where I talked in depth about the time that Michelle and I had gotten stranded at was Red River Gorge, like at the very top, and had to work our way down and got almost died numerous times, and then we're being tracked by either wolves or coyotes or something the whole time on the trail. And every time you'd see one dart out, you'd hear this big like ground shaking like roar, like you could feel it inside you, and something would start to come out from the other side of the woods, something huge, and each time the wolves or coyotes or whatever it is would dart right back in. And it happened for probably like the whole last 45 minutes to an hour of us being there, and we were there for hours, and it was very intense, very messed up. But like I said, go back and find that show and listen to that story there, because it's a long one.
But yeah, I mean, if you experience something, and there's a new one that just came out in Chicago area about it. They said it was the weirdest experience because somebody could see it, but it was like somebody had one of those TV cloaking devices. You know, everything was distorted, this and that. And the people that were on a second story were looking down and seeing this branch that was bending because it had weight on it.
Yeah.
And this guy walked by, and it jumped out of there and made such a big thud. It had him turn around, but he couldn't see what it was because
like
it
the Predator
was almost
with his cloaking device.
Yeah.
Right. It was almost like light could go right through it. So two people that were in that second story seen somebody else on an opposite building, and that person seen it, and then they tracked down the guy, and they all had the whole thing of saying how creepy and how unfulfilling that feeling was of that entire situation.
Oh yeah. Just the distortion factor alone is nuts to actually see that, like not on the film, but like actually see that in real life in front of you it's got to be terrifying, man.
Right, and that's the thing, you know. There was so much to these different stories, and you know, some of the stories were just trying to explain why there was a rock slide in the middle of nowhere. There was a rock slide that killed people, and some people came up with this cryptid that it was like this giant worm whale thing that would hang off the side of the Rocky Mountains, and it would go and see somebody and slide down and eat them.
Yep.
And it would slide right back up the other side of the mountain. Why we came up with that, we don't know.
Tell your kids to make them behave.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think about a lot of myths and legends and urban legends come from that reason, to make kids behave and, to get their shit together. And that's where there's a very blurry line with cryptids, because cryptids,
Right.
myths, legends, urban legends, there's a lot of spillover, and it can be really hard to define what those lines are. We talked about earlier with skinwalkers, how a good chunk of people that are into cryptids believe that skinwalkers are cryptids, when in reality that's a Navajo legend, so, and myth, potentially. I say myth loosely, but so are those technically cryptids? Technically, maybe not, but you could make a case. So there's all these different lines and divisions that just aren't really clear.
Well, just given the the etymology of the word cryptid, I would think that any kind of being that you can't really explain or understand would fall into that category.
Basically, it's the paranormal for nature. That's a lot of what I see cryptids as, and what I've heard it as having been described before.
10-foot creatures, alienistic outside alligator mall.
That was recent. That was all over the news and everything. Yeah.
I didn't hear about that. All right, so here's a question.
Okay.
So I've never been to Point Pleasant or seen the Mothman Museum or anything like that, but I have met people who have an irrational fear of bridges because of the Mothman legend. And I'm curious, have you ever met anybody that has an irrational fear of something because of one of these cryptid legends?
Oh, definitely. I've actually heard the bridge thing numerous times. That's actually a pretty common one. One that I've probably heard more than the other ones. I know people that are so terrified of Bigfoot that they won't even go in the woods. There's a lot of stories like that, and it's one of those things about fear and horror that I find interesting, where everything that's been instilled upon us since birth. It's why we check the back seat of our car if we're driving alone. You hear a spooky noise around your house, you go and investigate it. It's because we're conditioned with these primal things, these primal feelings, and we do all these things without even realizing it. We have these fears, we have this set of actions that we perform that are all autopilot based on all these things.
Well, like our viewer that we just played the video, or she's talking about going swimming in a rock quarry.
Yeah.
Did she ever go back to that rock quarry after that? Did she ever go swimming there again, or did she stay away from it because of her experience?
Good question, Jodi. You're still with us. Can you answer that for us?
That's totally not what I was thinking. Everybody's going with the spooky
me put on the spot like that. Yeah, thanks, Ron. Okay.
For me, old music is always the girl from Ipanema, but like the Muzak version.
Went back, was very uncomfortable every time.
Okay.
Which that would absolutely make sense. I mean, I don't expect somebody to go and have a situation that made you feel very uncomfortable and just go back and be like, "I've got this."
But here's the psychology behind it,
what
though.
we do.
Did you go back because you were hoping to see it again? And there's no right or wrong answer here. This is something you actually hear a lot. Like, you experience this insane thing, and it creates a fear in you. But like the human desire to understand it, to need to know more, keeps a lot of people going back to those locations for that reason. So I'm curious if you also experienced that.
Or the possibility of proving it. Haha.
Yeah,
you guys
exactly.
might think I'm crazy, but look what I found.
Exactly.
And that was the whole situation. A lot of people, so some of these cryptids are some of the things that you kind of look at it and you wonder if they were stories made up just to scare people, or if enough experiences happen that all played the same.
I wanted to see it again. I did explore some caves, but never saw it again.
Right. Okay, yeah. And just so you at home know, obviously, if you send us a video and you show up in the comments, we will talk to you about your video. Like, we're not just we're not just randomly playing. We'll actually talk to you about it. Jodi, you are awesome.
Yeah,
we appreciate you.
Because we weren't there. We didn't see it.
Exactly.
But you were. So we want to see, number one, how you felt about it. What was running through your brain? What was going on? I mean, there was so many things that happens in a crisis situation that anybody could do. You could run, you could fight, you could be like Curiosity killed the cat. It depends on how you were and how you were born on situations that the way you go and you handle things.
Yeah.
I mean,
she describes it as a full-on Sasquatch, but she doesn't go into detail on what exactly it looked like. How did you know it was a Sasquatch? What tipped you off that it was that and not something else?
Do we want to invite her on?
Good.
I'm fine with that. If she has a few minutes, I wouldn't mind talking about this a little deeper. That would be cool.
Give me a second to bring Facebook back up, and I'll send her the link.
Oh, yeah. If you'd like to, Jodi. If you can't, no pressure, not a problem. But if you'd like to, we'd love that.
Yeah. I feel like this is kind of like the Ghostbusters moment where you look at them and go, and we're ready to believe you.
Right? Exactly.
I call Dan Aykroyd's character.
I'm probably Bill Murray because I'm usually the inappropriate one.
Joe, Ray, Egon.
If anyone ever asks you if
sent
you're
you
a
the
god,
link.
just say yes.
And then all of a sudden he goes and here he's like, Ray, we talked about this. Yes, we're God. We're all gods.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Did you hear they pushed that movie up? They pushed it up by like a week or two, so now it's coming out this March.
Yeah.
The new Ghostbusters.
I can't wait. Guess who's going to the movie theater getting like 4 boxes of popcorn and just sitting in there? Oh man.
It's Frozen Empire, so you gotta find somewhere to see it outside while it's cold.
No.
You know,
You
Pyle,
can feel the movie, you know.
allow free refills. You don't have to get 4 boxes of popcorn. You can
But
get
then I don't have to get up. I'm
Yeah,
not
you gotta
missing
walk
a
away.
single. I'm not missing a single bad dad joke from Phoebe.
I'm getting those really long, like the super long and like thin trash bags, and just sliding them in my pants and filling them with popcorn, so I can just be like, "That's how you do it, man."
wear a big overcoat. You
Bring
look
that
like
shit
a
from
cryptid
home.
yourself walking into the theater.
So why we're waiting for her if she's wanting to join us, or we did have a comment about chupacabras,
Mm-hmm.
and
Chupacabra.
That was
there is 2 different chupacabras, but chupacabra means goat sucker,
Mhm.
and they were seeing both of these do the exact same thing, so it put them all in the same name of a category. But you have one that is more like a lizard creature from Central America, or you have the one that's Texas that is like more of a mange coyote that got hit by a police officer going through the brush.
Huh?
And last time I seen any information, they still did not properly identify what was that body.
Right.
And the thing is, in the cryptid world, we want to see it, but then again, we don't, because then it scientifically proves, yes, this is real, like the duck-billed platypus,
Yeah. Yeah.
or it'll scientifically, destroy everything that we thought about it. We
Yep.
don't want to do that sometimes. And part of cryptid is absolutely enjoying the journey on some of this stuff.
Well, unlike Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeti, and those variants where, they basically all have the same description, something large, with very hairy and big feet. Nobody really knows what a chupacabra looks like. You can do a search on the internet for chupacabra and find maybe 100 different variations of what people think a chupacabra looks like.
The only video you'll ever get, and it claims it's a chupacabra, is the one that was from the dash camera of the police car or police truck that was cruising down the road and had this thing run in front of it, and it hit it.
There's other footage out there. There's
Is there?
other foot. Oh yeah, there's a ton of footage out there, man. Crazy stuff. Some of it you could clearly tell looks like a mountain lion or something like that.
Right.
It's an absolutely normal thing, but it's still kind of creepy the way it's moving, and its eyes are red, but that's because it's
Okay.
nighttime.
So you catch it on dash cam, you hit it with your car, whatever, and somebody says, "What the hell is that?" you say chupacabra. You don't
Oh,
know because
chupacabra.
you don't know what a chupacabra looks like. So you say this first thing that comes to your mind, or so we still don't know what a chupacabra looks like. But you say, okay, that's a chupacabra. So now that's what a chupacabra looks like.
Oh yeah.
Right. I will say that one of the weirdest things dealing with cryptid is that there is a United States cryptid museum, and where it's located is the most cryptidy idea because it's in Maine.
Yeah.
Out of every state, it is in Maine. The number one state for Bigfoot sightings is like California or Washington, but the National Museum of Bigfoot is in Oregon, which actually has some of the lowest sightings for this.
Oh yeah.
So it's
Oh, yeah.
very interesting how people latch onto some of these lores and just say, you know what, it would be better if it was here. But
Yeah.
I know the reason that it's in Maine is because the person that did all the research and did all the time and effort, it was at their property.
Yeah.
So they have castings of Bigfoot. They have photos, pictures, testimonies, papers, and this and that, all in this museum type. And honestly, I would like to go.
Oh yeah.
Just to see.
I don't think that was a chupacabra. I think that was a chupalobstra.
Now there is something that Ron's touched on twice now. You mentioned, how did Jodi know that it was a Sasquatch? Like looking at it, how did you just know? What did it look like? And you talked about just knowing the chupacabra. There is an old Tibetan belief / practice. It's a Tibetan Buddhist thing called tulpas, which is basically a materialized thought form, something brought into existence because enough people focus on it and put enough belief into it, so it exists. In our internet culture, the most still recent, most famous is probably Slender Man as a thought form or tulpa, but that can also be looked at as a possibility for the belief in cryptids. I'm not saying I believe this. I'm just saying it's another interesting angle to consider, because you have to consider with especially this being originally a Tibetan practice, Yetis in Tibet. Like Tibetan Yetis are like one of the hugest like things in the cryptid world too. So there's a fun tie-in there. But again, not saying that I believe that their thought forms are tulpas, but it's something to think about when so many people in the world believe in these things. And they just can look at it and say, oh, well, that's this. Well, how do you know? Like you said, oh, well, because everybody knows what Bigfoot looks like.
Do they?
Exactly. We all think, a lot of people think we all know what Bigfoot looks like, but
well, see, that's the curious thing about it, because that's essentially how the Hogfather and Terry Pratchett came about. He was basically a thought process that people believe so much, he became his own avatar, and he was thought into existence.
Right.
Now, the one thing I will point out, there's been cryptids out there that people have made ideas. They've done this, they've done that, and they're like, okay, well, this is what Hogzilla looks like, and everybody's like, okay, well, that's kind of hard to believe. And then everybody just keeps on, oh, I seen it. And then next thing you know, you shoot the thing in Georgia, and it's a 800-pound.
Hogzilla sounds like it'd make a great movie.
But that was one of the things that we were talking about, me and someone else. The whole Hogzilla thing was exactly that. It was a whole bunch of stories, and everybody, it just was weird because this hog just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And they said, you see it, you will know it is. And it's like, okay. And then all of a sudden, the guy actually shoots the dang thing, and it makes world news. It's not like local or national. Oh no, it was world news. And there was people like, that's what we thought it looked like. Well, that's awesome. I mean, heck, back when they were doing so much exploration of Australia, they really thought.
There we go.
Well, hey, look who it is.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
Oh, you're fine. I mean, to be fair, we didn't tell you, hey, we're going to pull you onto a show today, too.
Right.
So we're patient.
Ever changing.
Yeah, so Ron's biggest question I'll let you ask again, Ron.
When you were swimming in this rock quarry and you surfaced the water, you said that you saw the Sasquatch. How do you know it was a Sasquatch and not something else? What was the elements that tipped you off into thinking, okay, this is a Sasquatch and not just some bearded homeless man?
Right.
It was me. I'm sorry.
It was Pyle.
Well, child, no, it could have been. So
I like her.
I literally locked eyes with it, and at first I was very confused. Like, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, wait a minute. And I literally took water, and I'm like, no. And so it was very tall. I can't tell you how tall. I'm barely 5 foot. It was tall to me. And very hairy. I've never seen a homeless guy that hairy. Sorry, Ron. But Pyle's laughing at me.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been homeless
I'm
before.
over here looking down the shirt.
No,
You
I
have
to.
never seen my back hair.
No. But
If it
I
can be
mean,
braided.
like, I'm saying you didn't see any type of skin. It was just like, wow. And I mean, like, my boyfriend was like way on the other side of the quarry at this point. And I'm just
So
like,
he couldn't see it from his vantage point.
no, but he swore, but he thought he was high. And he saw one on a fun night. Let's put it that way. But he chalked it up to being, out there.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no, John, they're real. Like, I will go to my grave with that. But then again, I went hunting and I never got to do it again. It was more to like let more people know, but also confirm I wasn't crazy.
Right. You brought up another interesting thing. A lot of people discount what people have seen, or they'll discount themselves if they used marijuana or a natural type drug, when there is actually a lot of evidence to the contrary that states that when you are doing things like such as low amounts of shrooms, not like tripping your ass off shrooms, or the ingestion of marijuana, what that actually does is it calms you down to the point where you're able to actually perceive more of what's really there versus having things imposed in your brain that aren't there. So
Right.
that's an interesting factor that I hear a lot where, people asking, were you high? I'm like, well, I'm me. So of course I was high, but that has nothing to do with the story.
Right. But
See,
it
therein
also,
lies the crux.
Hmm?
I'm sorry,
I've heard
Jodi.
many people say it when they're high. I mean, in my teens, I got high. I never actually got a good experience myself, but that it opens another part of the brain,
Right.
and you're more like relaxed to receive it.
Right.
See, but therein lies the crux. You need to be herbally infused, so to speak, to have your mind open to be able to accept what it is that you're seeing. But
Right.
just by the sheer fact of being herbally infused is discrediting your story to other people, because they're like, yeah, he was high, he's just seeing things.
Right.
And
Right.
nobody wants to believe you because they know that you were high at the time.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of programming about marijuana that was done so many years ago that everybody still believes a lot of the things that have been proven to be drastically not true at all. It also depends on the person. If you've got an everyday daily smoker multiple times a day since you were 12 like me, versus someone that's never smoked before and can't handle it and hits a joint once and like flips out, I think you also have to consider the source and the person's experience as well with that. Anyone can react differently to any substance, even natural substances. But
it'd be something. It'd be different.
Any amount.
Someone
that have
like
been
me
by.
that doesn't partake in any of the substances. If I were to go out there and I saw something and I couldn't explain it, and I said it to Sasquatch, it's a cryptid. If I were to tell my story, then would people be more likely to believe me because they know that I'm straight edge?
And that's because of pre-programming about the substance. You might have that problem. And I think there's also a suggestion thing. And this is something that I will fully admit about marijuana in relation to paranormal situations and cryptids. If I don't see something, but someone I'm with is looking in different directions and sees it, and I'm high and I'm so open, they're like, oh my God, look over there, look over there, look over there. Then there comes that psychological aspect where they've told me what they've seen. So I'm expecting to turn around and see it. So my brain can potentially fill in that blank with something I'm not seeing just because they're describing what I'm supposed to be looking at. But that can happen not on substances as well. That's a brain trick. So there's that whole issue too. So I would think you'd have to, consider how much of this, this plant you imbibed, 2, your experience with the plant, and 3 is, were you the original person to spot it? If you want to,
Maybe it could also be said that I've never had any experiences or seen anything because I've never been the one imbibing.
That's also a possibility. I mean, luckily there's a lot of factors out there, people that both have and haven't that have seen things. Enough of both that we, go ahead.
I think too, Raz, there's the whole, a lot of people are on the wavelength that seeing is believing. But also you've got a big, vast majority that if they believe, they will see.
Yep, that as well. Because they want to see it so badly. Like
correct.
That is kind of like the Santa Claus theory.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do have Jenny. We haven't heard from Jenny in a little bit. Like where do you land on this particular topic here?
On which the imbibing, the seeing, the believing, or whether or not I believe.
It's all kind of one thing, really. Like we've looped this all in to make it look like one package.
Well, Jenny is our skinwalker for tonight since she's impersonating Del.
Yes.
Yes.
Baby sister, yes. Tell us your thoughts.
Jenny actually voices a skinwalker character in a project that I do.
Oh, really?
Yes.
She does.
You didn't tell me that. Oh, you're fired.
You'll see. You can't fire me.
I love you anyway.
You can't fire me until it's put out. And like I said, that's why we waited so long to play your video. It wasn't time yet.
Yeah.
So, okay, how to put this? Yes, when you are more open when you're high or you're less in pain. Because I've found a lot of times those that have finally lessened their pain can deal with what's around them, can see more. And marijuana has the ability to make it easier to do so.
This is true.
And in other cases, you're in a situation where it is part of the flora fauna and you do find it. And the other situation is, which version are you seeing? Because we have the Ohio grassman where it's Bigfoot, where he's mossy or grass covered. And the versions like you see in the Rocky Mountains that I keep seeing specials about, and the one in Florida that Jodi had seen. It all is in perception as well. You saw, you believe what you saw, and you know that is what it looks like because that is the version you saw.
It's Harry Henderson.
Exactly.
Basically, without the glasses, but yeah.
Right.
If I were to ever tell somebody that I saw a cryptid or I saw Bigfoot, nobody would freaking believe me just because I'm blind as a bat. And they're like, yeah, right, Ron.
It was Santa Claus.
Somebody tricked you.
So, Jodi, I do have a question for you.
Shadow puppets.
Yes.
How close would you say you were to it?
I want to say it was like, I was almost out to the middle, so I want to say like 30, 35 feet away.
But you were close enough to know that you were making eye contact with it.
Yeah. Because I was literally, I swam out to the middle of the quarry because if I went out a little bit further, there was this big rock you could sunbathe on.
Okay.
And that was where I was going to go, but I'd had such a bad day. My thought was, let me go underwater and like refresh myself. And then when I came up, it was like, holy shit. You know.
So you were close, but you were pretty far away.
Yeah.
Being at 30 feet, this and that. Which, you know what? I'm looking at something now. I'm thinking about 30 feet, this and that. One of the biggest things that a lot of people say is the smell. And that's the thing. I was going to ask, if you were close enough, could you smell it? Because I'll tell you what, a lot of people that come in contact with these things that are so close can give such a description on the smell. And if they even have anything that hints around that smell, they start shaking.
Yeah.
So,
Really?
yeah. So what
That's
you're
where
saying
the
is, if
whole
we ever,
skunk theory.
yeah.
Mhm.
So if we ever get a hold of a Sasquatch, we need to bottle it up and send it to your house. That way you can smell it too.
Yeah.
That'd be one of the
We
gifts
actually-
from us to you.
I would be the weirdo that would smell it too, just to say I smelled it.
One of the
That's
videos
me.
we have is about a skunk ape sighting.
We should watch that. Like we're talking about like the skunk egg thing. Like we should toss that up.
Right.
Well, that's an
Okay.
interesting
Real
Yeah,
quick,
segue,
I
Jane.
think another reason I wouldn't have been able to smell it is because in the quarry there were so many mixed minerals because it was an abandoned quarry
Okay.
that smell itself was very overpowering, almost
That makes
pungent, but
sense.
yet the water was
So that would
relaxing.
that would almost be like a really wonderful thing, because quarries actually have water that come in, and most of the water in quarries actually circulate. They find a way to circulate, come out of the earth, go back into it, circulate around. It's not very stagnant water usually in rock quarries like that, and having that smell, you'd be able to hide. Dude, is that a Sasquatch behind
There's
you?
a cryptid
Yeah,
behind
that's
No,
you.
my
that's a
husband,
Fernando.
the Sasquatch.
Dude,
Hi,
the way he was
Fernando.
walking, I seen it.
He was trying to look at Jenny.
Like,
So-
what did she bring her into now? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's
But if
the
we got
view
that-
from Mom.
Oh, right.
Hey,
Yeah.
Mom.
Okay.
When I was a kid, my mom knew some people named Maudie and Guy Kennedy. And they were elderly, and I remember Guy Kennedy sitting in a chair in his living room. And it was around the time that movie, The Legend of Boggy Creek, had come out. And he had said he remembered being a kid, and he never believed in anything, any monsters, until he was going fishing along a creek somewhere in Arkansas, wherever he lived. I don't remember. But he was sitting on the edge of a creek bed, and it was an overhang. And he said all of a sudden he smelled something that was horrible. Just a horrible smell, and he thought it was a skunk or something. And then a hand reached out from under the ledge and tried to grab his ankle. And he jerked his foot up and threw his cane pole and ran. And he told us, he said, he said, to my dying day, I believe that it was one of those creatures.
Mhm.
So that was kind of neat.
Oh yeah.
I love Mom.
I do too.
Mom is awesome.
I think
I
that
love that-
Sasquatch is getting in your fridge back there.
I
yeah.
love that we're like also randomly talking about things that are leading us into videos without even ever trying, because I've intentionally not watched the videos because I didn't want to like have a preconceived notion of what the videos were, and to like I wanted to react live on air instead of like knowing what they were ahead of time. So that's pretty cool. It's the organic.
Oh yeah.
But yeah,
Oh, another sighting.
They
Bigfoot
keep
is
calling
real.
it the Sasquatch sighting.
You know-
Fire in the camera.
we need to get a T-shirt made that says we seen Sasquatch in Jody's house. He was in the
Yep.
fridge.
Yes, I will promote that. Yes.
That is awesome.
But no, I love the idea of cryptids because honestly, this one part, and I keep on referring back to this book. I love this book, and I'm a truck driver, so whenever I can find a good book,
Why is everybody talking about that?
Wait.
It's a defeathered Mothman.
No. Is that a pterodactyl thing from out west?
It's a plague mask.
It was a plague mask.
Okay.
But it was like a flesh tone, like almost like that how it looked on my screen. So it's a plucked.
With the right outfit, though, that would make a killer cryptid outfit.
It would, man.
Well, so I do Velma cosplay, and he plays the plague doctor from Scooby Doo.
That is so cool. I love that.
So the one thing that they encourage in this book for people that want to learn cryptid or do cryptid is go out and have your own adventure. See if you can find a sighting, and sometimes you won't see what you think you're going to see, but it still gets you into that neck of the woods that brings you into something. And one of the cryptids that they talk about is the Jersey Devil, which a lot of people over in that neck of the woods don't even want to even talk about it. It is one of those things that we don't like the name of it. We don't like to speak about it. We don't like this and that. And newspapers are who usually gives the name to the cryptids. Like somebody was describing the Mothman as being this or this or this. Then all of a sudden somebody said, well, this is almost like a man that's a moth. It's a Mothman. I mean, or you have some of the most recent ones that came out in the theory of Bigfoot is extinct because Mount St. Helens took out all the Bigfoot, and a new cryptid was created, and that is Bat Squatch. The way that it got past the extermination was it flew away. So, cryptids are those fun things that people are going to come up with ideas. People are going to see things that they can't explain. And that is the greatest thing because you have people like us or others that just want to hear the story or think about what this would look like. I mean, I got 2 books here that have two different looks on the El Chupacabra. But yeah, it's just, what's it look like? Like Ron said, how can you say that that's exactly what it is? We don't know. Tasmanian tiger was a legit animal, but it has been under scientific community, it's extinct. But you still have sightings of a Tasmanian tiger walking around the jungle of Tasmania. So is it officially extinct? It might be, or with all the sightings, it's become a cryptid. Because you can't scientifically prove that it is there. And some of the things from Australia just amaze me to begin with. So I'm sure that they've got some major cryptids things, and I've just never came across half of them. But every culture's got cryptids.
Right. I was going to say what got me into really looking into cryptids was my own experience, because shortly after I got into it more. But my whole thing, I'm always curious, is it an urban legend or can it be proved? You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier. Yeah.
It's the thrill of the chase. And I do that with paranormal stuff too, because I'm in one of the most haunted states. So Connecticut is very haunted.
It's up there, man.
Paranormal is a huge thing here. And we do have non-believers, but more than not, you'll find out the population believes.
Oh yeah, we'll definitely be doing a whole show specifically just on the paranormal, and we'll be doing all kinds of weird shows, aliens, all the good stuff.
Aliens, yes. I live with one.
I grew up right near Wright Pat Air Force Base for the majority of my life, so I've got some rough stories about all that.
Yeah.
Good old Riverside, Ohio.
Raz has got Area 52 in his basement.
I can believe
I
that.
live in the basement, man.
He is Area 52.
Yeah, I am. It's my
So
area.
I do want to bring up something that I always thought was pretty cool. 1898, Indiana, United States. There was a turtle that was found in the height, the measurements on the shell were so out there that these people wanted to find this turtle so badly, they actually brought a sea turtle from the East Coast to put it in this fresh water to see if they could entice this giant turtle to come out. And when the sea turtle started getting to the point where it was getting, not so healthy,
Right.
they turned it into a community turtle soup. But they kept on pumping and pumping and pumping, and they never could get the water level down enough to say, yes, there's something in there, or no. But so many people had seen this giant turtle that the shell is bigger than a dining room table.
So you take an animal that's not... You move a sea animal into fresh water and you torture it to death, basically, and then you eat it.
This is humans!
And, okay. Okay. All right. That was useful, whoever...
You sure it's not the cosmic turtle at the end of It?
Oh, no, there'd be a whole other problem if that were the case.
Yeah, that would be a whole other problem.
Bob Gray would have finally burst through to our universe, and we wouldn't have to wait ever 20 some odd years for Pennywise to exist.
Doesn't Pennywise appear around the same time as Jeepers Creepers?
Yeah. There's a similar pattern there. Yeah.
So the thing that they
This
do
is
have
off
proof of,
topic. Oh, sorry, Jenny.
the thing that they do have proof of in Chattanooga, Tennessee, is that there is a 2-story tall turtle shell at the Chattanooga Aquarium. Yeah. I've seen it. I know it's there. So they know that it's possibly a thing, but
or was
they
it one
figure it
point?
out without torturing other turtles?
Right.
Okay, once again, this was the 1800s, where they're going to do what they wanted to do, no matter what.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, they wouldn't have the technology that we have now.
Humans don't have the greatest track record of treating everything respectfully just to prove a point.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's very true.
I'm not trying to,
That's why
diss on
aliens won't
everybody.
reveal themselves.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's why aliens won't reveal themselves, because they know.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
They
it's just
know that we're all morons. Yep. We're basically all Florida man to the aliens and to all the cryptids. Like, we're collectively just Florida man.
Who thought this was a great idea? I don't know, but take your keys away. That's basically the thing, We will do anything we can to prove a point. We will drain a whole pond. We will drain a whole lake if we can do that. We will dig a hole. We will throw everything in a hole, which is what happened to there's one that's called Sam, and he's Sam the sinkhole. And they tried to fill him in just to get him to come out.
Yep.
Humans were actually trying to alter the earth just to prove a point.
And people were sacrificed to that sinkhole as well.
Right.
And that's another thing. We have sacrificed humans in our hunt for cryptids and strange phenomenon to prove things or to whatever, whether it be under the guise of I'm sacrificing this person for the harvest, or whatever the case may be, for a god or goddess or whatever, or some weird monster that lives in your town that you have to appease. Like, there are actual real documented proof of people sacrificing people to these things or to get a glimpse of these things.
And then there's also documented stories of people that believe that they were a type of cryptid and they must be killed.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's one cryptid that is up in the Michigan and Washington, or Michigan and One of those northern states.
Which one?
West,
Cryptid?
I think it's Wisconsin and Michigan.
Which cryptid?
Or yeah, that one.
Somewhere up there.
Which cryptid?
If you don't give us the name
Dude,
of the
I
cryptid, I
just-
can't help you, man.
Well, it was brought up. Is it like a skinwalker? And I said, no, it's not a skinwalker. And it's
Oh, the Wendigo and the Skinwalker.
yeah, the Wendigo.
Wendigos are very different than skinwalkers and forest mimics, and there's a number of things that are similar to each other but are very different.
Well, actually, this is a thing. The skinwalkers can take somebody and create it into a skinwalker, or the Wendigo, you do a act that turns you into one, and it's cannibalism.
It's more than just cannibalism. It's specifically also who you're eating as well.
Right.
You can't just go eat a bum on the street and turn into a Wendigo. There's a ritual actually involved with the whole thing as well.
Right.
I think know this why?
Because
there's a lot of
in Native history.
Something we don't know about you, Raz? Is that what
plenty of things y'all don't know about me you should be worried about, but that's not one of them.
But that was the whole thing. A Wendigo is not like a Bigfoot. Bigfoot is a different classification. A Wendigo is somebody that's turning Wendigo. And there was cases of a person that killed someone in their family, snapping their neck because they were trying to prevent them from fully going Wendigo, and just found out that they were super, super sick and they were hallucinating. And they killed the person that was hallucinating.
Yep.
I mean, we're not very good at throwing a rock and coming up with common sense sometimes.
Here's the weird fact. They say that we've, there's so much of, the world we haven't explored, the differences between how much of the land we've explored in the world, how much of the water, how much of space. But no matter how much humanity explores the wilderness, the fact is there's a lot of things there. We call them cryptids, we call them legends, paranormal, whatever we want to call them. That's just nature. There's a lot of things like that just truly, honestly exist in nature every day that are smarter than you and don't want to be bothered unless you bother them. And then chances are no one's going to survive to tell those stories if you bothered them to that degree. So these things are out there, man. Just because you're not seeing them or, you don't have an experience or haven't heard of something, it's all there. And to nature, that's just how nature is. Like, we're a part of nature against nature's will, I think, at this point. But it's nothing out there is really that much different than us as far as, there's species that exist. That's it. We're all just different species that share a planet. We're just the loud ones that bumble around and destroy everything and make a big, fracas about everything. That's the only difference between it.
On that note of things being out there that we don't understand and don't know that exists or doesn't exist, let's play the last one, because that was his thought process. He doesn't know what it was or what it wasn't.
So I remember it was 2021, summer of 2021, and I was at my mom's house. My stepfather was downstairs sleeping, and I was upstairs with my brother, and he had my phone. I was just staring and just looking outside. It was cloudy, but it was warm. And I was staring at this tree that my next door's neighbors have, and all of a sudden, I see something come flying out of the tree, which I thought it was a vulture, but it turns around, and it has no tail feathers. So I'm thinking it's something else, and all of a sudden it comes soaring through, and I just see two red glowing eyes. And I jump back, and I looked at my brother, and I'm like, go downstairs and lock the door. He said, why? I'm like, don't, just go downstairs and just do it. And that's all what I can remember of what I saw.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I will point out that he has not changed that story. for
No,
2-3
he has
years,
not.
he has not changed that story. As much as I wish that I could find a discrepancy in it and be like, okay, well, what's falling apart as you go on? He's not changing it.
All right. So
And
what was it again that he saw? Like a vulture type?
he thought
with no
he
tail
thought
feathers?
it was a vulture. It was something. It was not like 6 feet tall or anything like that. It was just something that he thought was a vulture and left and went past. And it just kind of looked back at him. But it's not something that's really big, which a lot of cryptids swear up and down they're huge animals or they're huge beasts or this and that. And some of them are really small. And this is something that he does not know what he's seen. So to tell you exactly, we can classify this as this, we can't.
Maybe that was a chupacabra.
It maybe a chupacabra, because actually the one in Central America, it does have wings. It is more like a lizard and does have wings. So maybe it was a chupacabra. But for someone to have something imprinted in their head so much that they have not changed it, and trust me, there's been punch around questions left and right between me and him, and he has not changed that story. I even go, well, how did you know it was glowing and glowing eyes? And he goes, it wasn't like laser beams. It was like something was illuminating.
Okay.
Something was dark around his eyes for him to have the darker eye.
So we go through life every day and we see, we see the outline of a squirrel and our brain fills in, that's a squirrel.
Right.
That's a stupid example of squirrel, but there's so many like animals and even people. We see the outline of a person and we're not paying attention and that's a person that just walked by us. How often do you really stop though and really actually use your actual active vision to scan your surroundings? And from your surroundings, that's what we do. We're on autopilot. We just go, we walk, but it takes only a brief moment of sensing or getting a vibe that something isn't right for you to stop and look around and see something like that or to experience something like that. So how often is it actually happening? And we're just on autopilot.
Well, that all depends on how often you train your observance skills. A lot of people can do this where even when they're not actively thinking about it, they're still in constant surveillance mode. And then that might not register the details at the time, but when they go back and they think about it and they replay that image in their head, they can see what the small details were at the time.
Right.
So I believe that there are people that can do that, but then, how come none of those people are the ones that are seeing the cryptids?
I'm sure a number of them are, and like they've either come out about it or they've second guessed themselves. Like I have pretty severe PTSD and slight paranoia. I'm not on autopilot a lot, especially if I'm out of my home. If I'm in my home, I'm on autopilot. But if I'm out and about, like I am constantly like looking at everywhere, like taking in detail, like looking around and seeing, not like every day am I seeing like weird, crazy shit, but like it happens often enough that it makes me want to be more active and alert and pay more attention. Jenny, you were about to say something also.
You do have a point because I have noticed in life you can see various people that have the same type of hairstyle and the same body type and wearing a similar color that that person you were with was wearing, and then you're not paying attention. They've walked away or around the aisle or whatever, and you go up to that person, you realize, I've just touched the wrong lady's arm thinking it's my grandmother or whatever. Why doesn't that play into other things? Oh, that looks like this thing. It must be this thing. Or when you walk up to it, it's like, no, that is not what I thought it was.
Yep, it's mistaken based on perception.
You know, I can tell you right now how much that is a truth. I used to work for a company and they gave you different shirts, different colors. One day I was wearing a blue shirt and I walked into a Kroger's. Do you know how many people just seen something on my shirt and they seen the blue?
They thought you
So they
were.
were asking me where I could find this and where I could find that. And excuse me, could you look in the back and this and that? And I was like, you know what? I need not to ever walk back in this store with a blue shirt on because this is getting ridiculous.
I wonder if you could have just walked into the back and looked around, and if the other employees would have also just been like, "Oh, he's the new guy," and just also saw your shirt and filled it in. Like, there's a certain level of confidence you can exude also while doing this, and people would have probably just allowed it to happen and not even thought anything of it. But...
So the ironic thing is, I've been in the back of that store many times for different reasons, so I don't think anybody would have questioned it for that reason.
Right.
But yeah,
Well,
I
don't
didn't have
wear
a
a
vest
red
on.
shirt and khaki pants in Target, or don't wear a blue shirt and khaki pants in Blockbuster.
I mean, and also don't wear.
There's only one Blockbuster.
Don't wear a red shirt and explore alien worlds. I mean, that's how you
Right?
get yourself killed.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's one of the things, you know. We look at things, and another reason that maybe we're not hearing all the cryptid stuff is people are like, well, I don't want people to judge me. We live in this society that everybody is being judged and everybody looks at everybody else and oh my gosh. And if you bring up there's a frog man, hey, if Nathaniel's still watching, Nathaniel can testify to this right now. I shared a locker with one of the Garrett boys, and I think it was Nathaniel, it could have been Nick, but either one. They always made fun of me because I had Ninja Turtles up in the top because that was my thing. I love my Ninja Turtles. And that is the first thing that them Garrett boys will bring up. I remembered you since the 5th grade when them Ninja Turtles were up in that locker. And that's the thing, you know. I don't care to be judged. I've been judged all my life. And the thing is, when I start talking to you guys about even coming on here, I was like, are you sure this is going to be a good thing for you guys?
Yeah.
That's the thing.
What was Jenny's thought?
I am very thankful for all the wonderful things that has happened.
Have you ever looked
I was
into?
going to say too, there's a whole stigma behind it. So when people like us, you know, that are outside of what they consider normal, I really despise that word. They put a stigma. They want to title it. They want to call you insane. They want, you know, like they want to have a label for it because then it makes sense to them. And I had to learn that a long time ago. There's nothing wrong with me. And I don't need to fit in. And I don't care if you judge me because I like me. And you know what I mean? But I think their mind and the societal norms of what we're forced and groomed to believe, they've got to slap a label on it.
Right. So why this isn't a conversation about religion, what I'm about to say, I guess you would call my spirituality or my religion, again, without actually discussing religion, is that I believe everything is real. Santa, Easter Bunny, Sasquatch, alien, everything is real for 2 reasons. One, I choose to live in a world where anything is possible because it helps me be more creative. It helps me be more on my toes, and it helps me not be so depressed all the time. 2, it keeps me alert and always looking at the world around me, which has saved me in a lot of fucked up human situations too.
Me as well.
And I'll tell you, the wonderful thing that everybody has done down in Pleasant down in West Virginia with Mothman has brought that community so much. And it's actually the biggest cryptid festival. And Jaden was able to run in the 5K this year, and I was so proud of him. That's because cool. how many of you runners actually have an emlet that has a cryptid on it?
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean they base their economy on it because it brings in so many tourist dollars.
Right, and the thing is, someone asked what the difference between Mothman and Mothwoman was, and they said it's easy. Mothballs. Yep.
So,
like
have you guys ever looked into the stories of a lot of the disappearances in national parks?
I just started doing that.
It is a very deep and long-lasting rabbit hole full of a lot of what we've talked about in a lot of different situations tonight, from the perception to the sounds to I reached out and grabbed this person's hand and started walking and got yanked into the woods because they looked very similar to my husband and were dressed in similar clothes, and I just thought it was my husband, and it turned out to be this creature. Or this kid goes disappearing and body shows up 4 months later at a very high altitude where no human being could have even got to, and looks like they just passed away from exposure yesterday. Like all kinds of weird things, and a lot of it's explainable by humans being stupid, and nature reclaiming humans because they've not paid attention to it. But then there are the really weird, strange ones, the sounds, the hearing the children crying in the woods and going to help them and realizing something isn't right. There's a lot of that in nature, and it gets reported at national parks more than anywhere else, to the point where there are entire books, message boards, groups. Like, there's so many things dedicated to disappearances of the paranormal or cryptid nature in national parks. It's a deep rabbit hole. It'll take you a long. I don't think you'll ever stop going through it, because I've been doing it for years, and there's still always more stuff to look at and find and hear about. But it's super interesting.
Now, Raz, have you ever heard?
What were you saying?
Go ahead, Friday.
That one series, 411, is based on the different disappearances in different woods.
Yes, it's amazing.
Now, there is a story that I was told a long time ago, and I think it came from my grandpa, and I don't remember. It might have been when he was drunk and just going through TV or whatever the case may be. But there was a tree that would talk to you. And, that sounds so weird. But as the people were going through, they were hearing voices and they were listening. And then all of a sudden people would be going and they were looking for their friends, and they were hearing their friends' voices. And this guy came across this tree, and he swore the tree was talking to him. And in all the bark looked like faces, and some of them were the faces of friends. But when they went and they marked it, they said that they marked it. They knew exactly where it was. They wanted the whole investigation. There was a hole in the ground where that tree was.
Yep.
How does a tree get up and move? How does the tree talk?
It's alive.
It's an int.
So
an int or a tree ant, yeah.
So there was so many things that, and me thinking my grandpa was drunker than crap. But you know what? Some of the best conversations we've ever had was him hammered.
And the living trees. It's one of the many names that phenomenon's called. But it's a known thing. I mean, there's a lot of lores and a lot of cultures that talk about that. 9 times out of 10, though, if you're hearing something that sounds like somebody listen very closely, because what will tip you off to it being a forest mimic, which don't follow them into the woods, is that the syllables will be weird. There will be something weird about the way something is being pronounced, or the cadence of it. That'll, if you really stop and listen to it, stop, you'll notice that there's something off enough that it can't be that thing or person. Or if it's a really stupid one, you look over behind your shoulder and realize that the voice you're hearing belongs to a person that's asleep in the tent behind you. That's based on an actual thing that happened to me that I talked about, I think in an Allied Society, or one of those things also not that long ago that happened in the woods. Yep, Lost Creek, that happened here in Ohio.
And that's one of the things, And then I asked him, I said, where's this tree supposed to be? And he goes, name a forest.
Yep, wherever it wants. That's the answer.
And I said, what are you talking about? And he goes, it's wherever it wants to be. You go and you find it and you go back to it and it's moved because it's been discovered. And it's like, this has got to be a joke, but there again, I've seen stupider things. I mean, people have adrenaline rush and they pick up a car and they throw it off because there was somebody that needed to be rescued. We've all heard that story, and there's actual footage of people picking cars up.
Yeah.
So that's just us being humans around another human.
Oh yeah.
Even Hawaii's got a cryptid in it. That story, and I can't even remember the name of them. But they are supposed to be 2 feet, 3 feet, down to 6 inches. And the rule of thumb with them is they will construct things, and they will only construct something that they can do in one night. And if they're discovered, they will take the person that discovered them and use them as a building material, and then abandon it.
That's gonna.
You never heard this?
No, I have. I just can't remember the name of it offhand. Like I know this. There we go. There we go. So,
but yeah, I thought it was funny because that they're using you as a building material, and then they'll be like, and we're done.
Yep, pretty much. So we are getting towards that like hour 40-minute mark. You guys will notice that we try to keep a lot of our normal non-padded cell shows below 2 hours. I want to do something a little bit differently in this show as far as the sign off. I want to have like a Jerry Springer style final thought from everyone. Like that sounds like like sort
okay,
of
who do you want to start with?
Hold on, let me finish explaining. Sort of what was your opinion on cryptids coming into this episode, and was there anything that we discussed that caught your attention or kind of changed some part of your opinion? And we will start with our guest, actually, Jodi.
Hey, so I've always believed in the unknown and cryptids. I did learn more, thanks Pyle, about Mothman, because I haven't really fully delved into it yet. And now I'm very intrigued, so that's my next project. But I thank you guys for having me. And maybe I'll see another Sasquatch in my time.
And where can people find you?
So right now I'm on TikTok under, what am I under? Rebel Angel. Sorry. You can find me at Blissfully Polished on Facebook. And I'm on Instagram, I believe. Am I under Jodi's Odyssey, Jen, or am I under Rebel there too?
I think you're under Rebel there, and Jodi Odyssey is the YouTube.
Okay,
I can go find them and put them up in the show notes later.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, awesome. Thank you, Jodi. We appreciate you popping in short notice and joining us, man. And thank you for sending in our first video, man. That was awesome.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to kick it over to Ron.
Okay.
Oh, there I am. Hi, people. Wow, Raz, can I use this time to pump my book?
Well, yeah. I mean, first talk about like do your sign off about cryptids, and then plug the shit out of your book after that.
I believe that I still have the same stance about cryptids that I had coming into the show, and that is I've never seen one. I've never had an experience with one. Therefore, I still remain blissfully skeptic whether or not cryptids can actually exist. I feel that way about a lot of paranormal stuff. I think I'm almost the opposite of Raz, who says that he believes that everything is real. And I'm the opposite. I'm the other direction where I believe that none of it is real. And life is just life, man. It's if you have paranormal stuff, then there's probably some kind of explanation. You just haven't found it yet, or science hasn't advanced enough in order to explain it. So, yeah, I mean, I like the idea of cryptids. I like studying them. I like hearing stories about them. But I've never had an experience. So until I have my own experience where it's empirical evidence, then I have to remain as it's a possibility, but it's not actually a thing.
Nice. And where can we find you, and also tell us about your book?
The book, we are doing the full cover reveal next week, I believe around next Wednesday. The book is called Inside My Nightmares. It is a collection of my short stories that I have written through the years. There will be 8 stories included in the book. It runs about 288 pages, and most of them are horror, different types of horror, and they all deal with something supernatural. Jenny has read a couple of the stories, and from her reviews, I'm told that some of the stories are fairly good. So I'm hoping that we get the word out. People will read the book, they'll like it, they'll leave me some reviews on Amazon, and that will just motivate me to want to continue writing stories and putting them out there. As far as the book goes, you'll find it Faycore Publishing. Comes out on February 15th, so a month from today. I'm very excited. You can get it in ebook and then order paperback and hardback separate. You can find me on, now I have an author page on Facebook. It's Ronald W Gillespie Jr., but I'm also a martial artist by trade, by profession, by hobby. So you can find me on TikTok as Wolf Dojo or Wolf Sensei, and you can also find me on YouTube, here on YouTube, also under Wolf Dojo and Wolf Sensei, if martial arts material is your thing.
Ron, it's sweeptheleg.com.
That's the main name right there, sweeptheleg.com.
There you go.
It's
Pyle, over to you.
Kai, but, you know.
So, honestly, I've always been that person that said, what can I find? So when it comes down to the cryptids, it's not exactly about finding them to me. It's more about hearing a story, having the reaction from the people that have been telling the stories, and kind of seeing what kind of adventure you can go on. Because if it wasn't for the Mothman, there would not be a Mothman Festival, which means that I would have not had the opportunity to take Budsy down there to run in a 5K. So when it comes down to cryptids, it's about the journey for me. And I want to go over to Indiana, and I want to go see the giant turtle. They're supposed to have a festival. This March, there's supposed to be a Frogman Festival. I have full intentions of going there, and I want to take a lot of photos because I kind of want to see what people think as much as I think. Because once again, it's about the journey for me, and learning all this stuff is the way that I'm just going to go and take my journey. But you can find me on Facebook. Yeah, what's that thing? It's not Snapchat. It's
Insta.
Yeah, I've got Insta
Instagram
too, but
and
TikTok, that's what it is. You can find me on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, and these on TikTok. I usually talk about the haunt industry. So if you go there and you're wondering, yeah, it's mainly about the haunt industry and what our haunt does, because I'm actually a haunt owner. But I love doing this podcast with you guys because, you know, it's learning more about your guys' stories too.
Over to you, Jenny.
Okay. Hi. I have not changed my stance on cryptids at all. I am very grateful to have a group of people that I can talk about any subject with, and nobody's going to disbelieve or make fun of or any other degrading action against any subjects. Like, hey, well, I believe this, but I can see why you have that idea. So I am grateful for that with all of you guys. And I'm just looking forward to learning more and sharing the books that Pyle has shared with me, with my mother-in-law, and us reading them and getting caught up to where him and Budsy are. You can find me here on Owlite. You can find me also on Faycore on Friday with the Librarian of the Blue Box. You can find me on Friday's Disorganized Library And I now have my own author page because I was working together with Ron to figure out how to actually make a page again on the computer. I hadn't done that before, so I learned something new and made my own.
Nice. All right, guys. So, my opinion obviously hasn't changed. I've had the same opinion since childhood. Everything is real, whether you want it to be or not. Ron, I'm joking. But
yeah, Ron.
You can find me pretty much anywhere grainy pictures and video are of cryptids on the internet. Easy to find. Just type in Raz T Slasher. I do want to leave you with a quote from my favorite novel of all time that's kind of relevant here. It's Cabal by Clive Barker. The line is, God is an astronaut, Oz is over the rainbow, Midian is where the monsters live. It's sort of a quote about, I'm not going to explain the whole damn book to you, but basically it was proving that these monsters and these things did exist as if it were everyday fact, which sort of leads into and was a big part of how I formed my whole belief, actually. So, a little fun fact for you. But we can pull me out now to the overall group view. I forget to do that. Thank you. I'm slow. But thank you guys for being here as guests and co-hosts. And thank you guys out there for watching and putting up with our shit. This is an every other Monday thing opposite of Tomb of the Terrible. So expect a lot more. Our next episode, I don't know. What do you guys think we should talk about next time? Thoughts?
We need to get a wheel like we do on Tomb of the Terrible and just go over cryptids.
We should do that.
Topics. Just
This
this
week-
week, wheel, find out what the next.
This
topic
week we will upload a wheel video of us doing that to decide our topic. That's a good idea. Unless
Will
one of you in the
morality,
meantime-
turn. Tell us the lessons
lesson
that we should learn.
Unless
Wheel
one of
Legends,
you
turn.
feel really strongly about what we should do, then you can message us. You can hop in our Discord channel, which there's links to everywhere, and tell us that you want to hear about this. But when we put it up, also remember you can send us videos. And as Jodi found out today, we may even pull you into a chat. So be prepared for that. But thank you
And
guys.
I was going to say real quick earlier, you said you believe in everything because I'm kind of like that too. And me and my neighbor, I got new neighbors, and me and her were actually talking. And because we both have a fondness for vampires, and she goes, "But do you ever think they were real?" I'm like, "How do you think the idea to write about it came about?"
Oh, yeah.
Somebody didn't just sit there one day and say, "Oh, a vampire." So, I mean, that's my take on things. Like at
we'll
one
definitely be
point,
talking vampires one of these days, too, for sure.
yeah, at one point, the lycanthrope and all this existed for it to be created.
Oh, yeah, definitely, man. But again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you all at home for watching. And we'll see you real soon. Until then, pleasant nightmares.
Bye.